Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Fantasy LCS Week 2 preview. We're going to take a look at some interesting pickups, how well some players did last week, and how they will fare heading into this week. Let's begin with some players that might be available and will probably be available for you to add in your respective leagues. First up is Akkadian, the rookie jungler for Echo Fox. In Week 1, he was owned by just 18.3% and was started by a whopping 2.7% of all Fantasy LCS players. As you know, he went off in Week 1. He had 34 kills, which led the LCS in all positions, and that's 5 more than the next player, who came in with 29. Team FlyQuest fared well in Week 1, going 2-0 in each of their matches. This week they will face CLG and Echo Fox. So that series against Echo Fox could fare well for players like High, Balls, Lemon, but CLG could be a tough one. We'll see if the XC9 roster still has what it takes to compete at the highest level. And finally, there's Golden Glue, who fared well last week. We're unsure if he will see some time this week because if you remember, Liquid also has a link on the roster that could kind of cause an impact array situation within Team Liquid. But if you are in a deep league, talking 8 teams, this is a good player to pick up, because if he does earn the trust of that Liquid roster, he will always be playing 2 series every week, as opposed to some EU guys you might have to swap in and out who may only play 1. Alright, next let's move on to some must-start players. We're going to start with Contracts. Contracts had a major Week 1. Just like Akkadian, he's another rookie heading into the split, replaces Meteos. A lot of questions surrounding him Week 1. But he was the 4th highest scoring jungler, and he clocked in at 26 kills. Very aggressive play style. He's sure to mesh well with that C9 roster as the split continues. Stixay, AD carry for Counterlogic Gaming, leads Fantasy LCS in total points and points per game, obviously. So it's hard to not start the player who has fared the best so far. So until anything changes, you really got to start Stixay. And finally, there's Jensen. Jensen faced 2 really high-tier mid laners last week. Bjergsen, of course, and then Keen. We'll get into Keen a little bit later. You may disagree on the high tier, but he scored the 5th most points out of all mid laners. Cloud9 2-0. Again, kind of the same situation as Stixay. Until you see a drop off in quality, there's really no reason to not start him. And unless you're very fortunate and you have like a hell of a roster, you probably wouldn't even think about benching Jensen anyway. So those are your must-start players for Week 2. Now let's take a look at our sleeper picks for Week 2. The first being Apollo, AD carry for Team Envy. Envy went 0-2 last week, if you recall, and yet Apollo was still able to be the highest scoring player in the best game format. So that's pretty big. The fact that he can put up those numbers despite his team taking 2 L's is a big reason to maybe look at him a little more. And also joining him, we have Keen. Keen, I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Jensen and how they fared last week. Keen is actually tied for first when it comes to mid laners and kills with 29. And to add on to that, he has the 4th most assists of all mid laners, also with 29. So Keen is a player that's very involved with his team. He's going to be around a lot of the action, and as a result, he's bound to pick up points. Next, we have a segment that's more geared towards your deeper 8-person leagues, and that's the European picks. This week, I would avoid picking them if I could. There's not a lot of high-tier EU teams that will be playing twice this week. High-tier being really G2, H2K, potentially Fnatic early in the season. But this week, if you do have to go and grab some EU players, I do so from Vitality, UOL, and Misfits, each of which play twice this upcoming weekend. It is the first EU Super Week, which means that there are more games than normal. So it's not absolutely terrible if you do have to rely on some EU picks this week. There's just not a lot of proven teams to pick from. Vitality, UOL, Misfits, they all seem like they have a lot of potential, but with only 1 week completed and one game, a one series sample size, excuse me, it's kind of hard to feel confident in putting these guys in your starting lineup. And finally, I'm going to answer some common questions that I've seen appear on the Fantasy LCS subreddit coming into this week and towards the end of last week. The first, and I think probably the most prominent, is the Impact Ray situation with Cloud9. Impact started the first series last week for C9, and then Ray actually played the series against Dignitas. And so there's some concern over who will and who won't play this upcoming weekend and forward. This weekend in particular, I would look for Impact to start. Obviously, at this point, I'm recording this on Tuesday. Nothing has been said by Cloud9, so it's just speculation right now. But C9 faces CLG and Immortals, two teams that are expected to finish towards the top of the table, and therefore the C9 will probably bring their A game, their starting roster. I would look for Impact to play. I would not expect Ray to get a start this week, although it is possible. I believe Ray saw action last week because C9 felt fairly confident that they could take down Dignitas, despite Someday being a very challenging matchup in the top lane. It was a lot about getting experience for Ray against that caliber of a player, while still having that safety cushion of the rest of your team outclassing Dignitas' lineup. Second, and finally, will be Phoenix One. The hype surrounding them this offseason with the acquisition of Arrow and Adrian in that bot lane, Ryu in the mid lane. Anori is a great up-and-coming jungler. If you remember, he was a rookie last split, but only played in the summer. Did not play last spring, so we have not seen all he has to offer yet. I do think they're for real. This week they face Envy and Liquid. They just seem like a team that is able to contend, and when you play a best of 3, a team that's able to contend is bound to have at least a win in there, if not at least a shot at a win. I think P1 is especially a great fantasy value in best game formats because I feel very confident that they are able to take at least a game off most teams. So thank you guys for listening. Best of luck in week 2 in your leagues. Leave any questions in the comment section below. I will be sure to answer them or answer them next week in week 3 mailbox questions. Thank you.